You, a 45-year-old man, were previously married to a woman you refer to as Lucifer, and together you have 3 children. Dean, 21, Kylie, 19, and Jax, 17. You were married for 5 years and dated for 7 before the marriage began to deteriorate. A few months prior to filing for divorce, you noticed troubling changes in her behavior. She became increasingly controlling and paranoid. For instance, when you went to help your grandmother move furniture, she demanded to know where you were going, despite your earlier explanation. Concerned about her behavior, you did some research and discovered that such controlling tendencies can sometimes indicate infidelity. Eventually, a friend of yours witnessed Lucifer kissing another man in a restaurant, and he sent you photos as proof. This confirmed your suspicions, leading you to file for divorce. You sought a custody arrangement of 80/20ths, but ultimately settled for 70/30ths, which still allowed you to have a significant amount of time with your children. After the divorce, you worked on rebuilding your life. This year, you learned that your ex-wife was terminally ill with cancer. When your son Dean informed you about her condition, you felt indifferent. While you were supportive of your children, you were surprised by your own feelings of relief at the prospect of potentially gaining full custody of Jax, as Dean had already moved out, and Kylie planned to live with you after turning 18. A few days later, Dean reached out to let you know that Lucifer, who was now bedridden, had expressed a desire to have one last conversation with you. You were straightforward in your response, telling Dean that you had no intention of speaking to her. The emotional weight of her infidelity and the hurt it caused you overshadowed any lingering feelings you might have had. While Dean understood your decision, he warned you that Lucifer's family might contact you about it. As anticipated, her family began bombarding you with calls and messages, accusing you of being heartless for not granting Lucifer's last wish. Despite their attempts to guilt you, your children and some of Lucifer's relatives, who were not on good terms with her, supported your decision. You felt torn between wanting to respect your children's feelings and dealing with the backlash from your ex-wife's family. In a subsequent Reddit update, you clarified your position on the situation. While you did not wish ill on your ex-wife due to her cancer, you acknowledged that you didn't harbor hatred toward her either. You viewed holding on to resentment as an unnecessary expenditure of emotional energy, especially since your life had moved on significantly since the divorce. You also addressed comments about her receiving karma for her actions, stating that while you didn't like her, you wouldn't wish such a serious illness on anyone, regardless of the past. Finally, you mentioned that instead of speaking to her in person, you were considering writing her a letter or creating a video to express your thoughts, as suggested by some of the commenters. Ultimately, this situation is complex, filled with a mix of emotions stemming from past experiences and present realities. Your focus has been on supporting your children, while navigating the challenges posed by your ex-wife's illness and the reactions of her family. A while ago, I posted about my ex-wife, Lucifer, and shared a small update that didn't fully explain everything. I'm writing this now to provide a more complete update and address some questions that were asked. First, let me catch you up on what's happened since then. After my initial post, I sat down with my 3 kids to ask their opinions on the situation. I also explained to them that the approach we had previously discussed would be the only way I would agree to grant Lucifer's wish. While my children expressed that they would appreciate it if I spoke to her, they also completely understood if I chose not to. I shared with them that I was seriously considering writing her a letter or making a video, but I needed more time to decide whether or not I was ready for that. When I said video, I meant a video call, not a pre-recorded video. Sorry for the confusion there. To answer some of the most common questions I've received, did I end up speaking to her? At first, I had decided to see her in person, mainly for the sake of my children. However, when I arrived at the hospital, I experienced extreme anxiety. I started hyperventilating and nearly passed out. At that point, I realized that it wasn't worth risking my health just to speak to someone I hadn't seen in a long time. So, I went back on my decision and ultimately chose not to see her. Did I make a video call or write her a letter? I considered it. But before I could follow through, something happened that changed everything. Shortly after my first post, some of Lucifer's relatives, who had already been critical of me, started publicly attacking me on social media. The number of people involved in these attacks grew, and many of them were people I didn't even know. Thankfully, my children stepped in. They confronted their mother's relatives and firmly told them that if the harassment didn't stop, they would cut off all contact with them. This worked, and the attack stopped. I'm incredibly grateful and blessed that my kids did this for me, even though they didn't have to. Not long after this incident, we received some unexpected news. Lucifer's condition, which we thought was terminal, seemed to improve. The doctors told us that what had been threatening her life had somehow become benign, and they were working on a treatment plan. Unfortunately, this hope was short-lived. Just last week, Lucifer passed away peacefully in her sleep. My children, as well as her family, are deeply grieving, and I've done everything I can to support and comfort them during this difficult time. In light of everything that's happened, my kids have started planning their mother's funeral. They've asked me to attend, and I've agreed to go, mainly at the request of my eldest child, Dean, as well as a mutual friend of mine and Lucifer's, whom I'll call John. John, who is 42 years old, supported me throughout the divorce, despite remaining friends with Lucifer, and I feel like I owe it to him to attend the funeral. He has even assured me that he will sit with me during the service and ensure that Lucifer's family doesn't cause me any trouble. My younger two kids, Jax and Kylie, have also promised to help by distracting any family members who might try to stir up issues. The funeral plans aren't finalized yet, but I will provide another update when everything is settled, likely in about a month when the funeral takes place. I want to thank everyone for the support and kind words you've shared with me throughout this entire process. It's meant a lot to me, and I appreciate the continued encouragement.